What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little commentary on just kind of the general state of video games and just a topic I wanted to talk about here after some of the stuff I'm seeing from some fellow YouTubers and just some stuff that's coming out from developers such as Bungie and some people that are on Twitter. Just a little bit of a weird phenomenon that seemed to be going on here lately when it comes to video games in general, that I think kind of speaks a little bit to why the state of AAA gaming is so bad right now and why the state of video games in general is pretty bad right now. And that is the difference really between being critical and objective and being toxic when you're discussing a game. And to be honest, a lot of this is stemming from Destiny 2. The majority of it, in fact. Bungie's actually, some of the developers at Bungie have been talking about being positive, instead of being critical and when you're trying to give feedback for the game. And a lot of Destiny YouTubers are also talking about the people that are critical of Destiny, saying that they're entitled, saying that they're just being toxic, that they're trolling. That they should just be positive and give the developer positive feedback and try to foster an environment of positivity in general. And I'm really not sure why this has become a trending thing at the moment. Quite honestly, I don't really see a whole lot of people that are being toxic. I guess when they say toxic, they've been acting like everyone's making death threats to the developers of these games and that everyone's so entitled, and I just don't really see that. That's probably the minority of the people who are who have complaints about any game right now. Seeing this from a lot of YouTubers about Star Wars Battlefront, talking about how the microtransactions are no big deal, people just want to complain about stuff, the game's really fun. And then people on Destiny 2 are kind of making the same thing. They're saying, it's not really a big deal that, Bungie's not doing such a great job. We need to be so positive and stop being so negative and toxic. And they just label anyone who has any bit of criticism for the game or the developer as being a toxic person. And it's kind of what I call a little bit the white knight syndrome, where people just will defend anything without reason, with no objectivity. And that's really my problem with the state of, I guess, YouTubers in general right now, in some cases, with just the people who promote these games in general. We're not being toxic when we call a company out for their bullcrap. The people who got up in arms about the microtransactions and the pay-to-win scheme in Battlefront 2, we're not being toxic. They're being objective, they're being critical, and they were righting a wrong, at least in my opinion, of something that should never have made it through development into a AAA release. The people who are critical of Destiny 2, of everything going on there with Bungie, how they really scaled the game down, how they gave up 3 years worth of development to start down with a completely watered down title that lacks any features or any of the improvements that were made to the original game. Those people are not being toxic. They're being objective, and they're trying to get something improved by bringing it to light. Now, yes, there are some people who do go a little overboard with their criticism and the words they use and the way they say it. They're using, cuss words and swearing at the developers and the death threats and all that. But like I said earlier, that's the minority. Not all of the critical YouTubers or the people being objective about the game are out there making these death threats and doing all this crazy stuff, which is ridiculous. Similar to kind of some of the stuff that went on with No Man's Sky when it first came out. There were quite a few people who were being toxic in that case. However, there is a big difference between being toxic and being objective and critical about a game. And these developers, they deserve it. They deserve the negative feedback when they don't put out a good product. When they overhype something, when they make most of their budget back off of pre-orders and then decide, hey, we're just going to put out a game that's completely lackluster versus what we hyped up, and then we're going to make people pay for the rest of it with DLC, then there's a problem with that. And they should be taken to task for that. Bungie should be taken to task for how they've handled Destiny 2, for the way they've not been transparent whatsoever with their community, which quite honestly is not something that's surprising to me at all, because it's been an issue with them since day one. And a lot of people ignored it with the original Destiny, because from time to time they did make some interesting and some decent changes to the game to keep people happy. They did a fairly poor job of it overall, in my opinion, but at the end of 3 years, Destiny was in a pretty decent position. But with Destiny 2, they've just fallen off the boat completely, and they have not been upfront with the community. They've not been transparent with the community. Recently, it's come out that they were throttling experience gains to get bright engrams after you got past level 20. I'm going to do a separate video regarding that because I think that's something I want to go a little bit more in depth in with regards to Bungie and just the way they are very shady and not very transparent when it comes to how they deal with their community and the people who quite honestly have put up with so much from them and continue for some reason to show them so much love and continue to support them. It's amazing how they take that for granted and they completely treat people like crap. But when we point stuff like that out, we're not being toxic. We're pointing out the obvious. We're trying to hold them accountable. If you go to work and you do a poor job, you're going to get in most cases you're going to get a bad performance review. There's going to be people at work who complain about you not doing your job. Those people are not being toxic. They're trying to hold you accountable for not performing up to the level that you should be. It's the same way with video games, and I'm getting so tired of all these people white knighting for these billion-dollar corporations. These corporations don't need you to white knight for them. They make tons of money. They have attorneys who can do it for them. They don't need fanboys. They don't need YouTubers coming out of the woodwork to talk about how great they are because they think they're friends with the developer, which we see from a lot of these people. Oh, I went out to this game capture and now I'm buddies with so and so and we have beers together. So that they're friends with me and I have to defend them. It just gets ridiculous from sometimes that I see. But like I said, it's not. There's no toxicity. There's not this massive issue of toxicity that so many people are complaining about right now on YouTube and on Twitter. If you want to voice your opinion and you want to be critical of something, that's perfectly fine. You know, if you're being objective and you're going about it in a mostly civilized manner and not ranting and raving too much, that's fine. You know, even look at a guy like Angry Joe when he does his videos and he gets into his little rants. He's not being toxic. You know, there's a lot of other. I hate everything. There's other channels that do a lot of critical reviews of video games. They're not being toxic. They're trying to get things fixed. The state of AAA gaming right now is terrible. The state of AAA gaming right now is essentially, let's spend all the money on advertising, let's overhype a game through the ceiling, let's underdeliver, and then we'll pull pieces of the game out and resell it as DLC and charge people another $40 or $50. Let's put microtransactions in our game that we're already making people pay $60 for, that we're making people pay an additional $40 to $80 to however much in DLC for to get a complete experience. But yeah, let's go ahead and put microtransactions in that. It's absolutely insane what some of these companies are getting away with AAA titles. And they talk about revenue streams and they've got to make money and all this. Well, look, I understand capitalism. Yay, capitalism, But it's not... It's a revenue stream when you're being greedy because none of it gets put back into the game. In most of these cases, there are only very few developers I've seen who actually do take the money they make and put it back into the game. Blizzard is usually pretty good with this. They've done an okay job with Overwatch, though I have some issues with the way they run their loot box scheme there. Warframe, I know people always, I see in my videos, people that don't like Warframe, they always make these comments, it's pay to win, it's all pay to win. First off, it's a co-op game, and you can't really have pay to win in a PvE co-op game, because no one's playing Warframe for its PvP, let me tell you. Also, you can earn pretty much 99% of the stuff in-game for free without paying a dime, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing my free-to-play series with Warframe, so I can show people exactly how you can go through and actually progress pretty quickly and get a lot of gear and weapons and items without ever having to spend a cent on the game. Not to mention, Warframe is a free-to-play game. I don't have a problem at all with the structure they're using with their cash shop, so to speak. Because all it really does is speed up your progression. You're not going to get an advantage over anybody because it's a co-op game. And quite frankly, I've seen plenty of players in Warframe who you go into a match with them or you're running a survival mission or something, they have all the greatest gear that you can possibly get, the best stats, stuff that you can buy with platinum, and they're terrible. They die like 400 times. They're awful. So just because you can go and buy all the stuff in the game doesn't make you better at Warframe. And also, like I said, the developer's model is essentially they make money off of that. They make money off of their Prime Access, and then they put that money back into the game. Sure, they keep some of it. They have to make a profit, obviously. But in this case, you look at the major updates that Warframe usually gets. You look at the quests that they get. You look at the Plains of Eidolon that recently came out. The stuff they are constantly trying to add more content into the game and improve the game. And trust me, I am not up DE's butt. I'm not a Warframe, a YouTuber who's going to sit here and stroke any developer's ego. DE has plenty of problems. DE does not handle criticism very well. They have, some of their own YouTubers who, if they get a little too critical for DE's, taste, they will get rid of them. They'll get them off their preferred program. They won't allow them to be sponsored anymore. And they do a lot of things negatively. But for the most part, their free-to-play model is pretty decent. And it gives you access to quite a bit of the game without forcing you to pay for anything. But some of these other, these AAA companies who put these microtransactions into the game, whether it's Destiny 2 or Call of Duty or Overwatch, or in most of these cases, it's just an additional revenue stream that goes right into their pockets. You can't sit here and tell me, after all the money Bungie and Activision made off of Silver sales and Eververse, that any of the free updates they put out required any kind of monetary investment. Whether it's reskin, it's reskin content, running a map backwards, just adding some, reskinned exotics of Thunderlord into the game, and then calling it, it's our, our live update, which all your microtransactions are going for. It's ridiculous. But just in general, I've gotten off on kind of a ramble here, but the state of AAA gaming, the state of gaming in general right now it's awful. There's really nothing to look forward to anymore, because if you're an educated consumer, you already know that most of these, new titles that are coming out, they're just getting hyped through the ceiling. They're going to underperform. They're not going to deliver on half the stuff they say they will. You can look at Mass Effect Andromeda. You can look at Destiny 2. Look at pretty much any Call of Duty game. Most likely Anthem, which BioWare is working on right now. A lot of people are worried about that game, given what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda. You can even kind of look at No Man's Sky a little bit, because that game was given almost a AAA treatment coming out of the gate. Now, granted, Hello Games has kind of been working pretty hard to get to make up for it. They've been putting a lot of stuff into No Man's Sky, but the way the game released and just came out as just a shell of a game, there's nothing to do in it. It's crazy right now how and I think we need to see another gaming crash, quite honestly. But unfortunately, we're seeing a shift in what's going on with gaming, because of mostly the mobile game craze and the younger generations who are now coming into gaming, who don't really think for themselves anymore. They're so used to being buried in their cell phone all day, playing Candy Crush or some card trading game, or Clash of Clans or some nonsense, that they're already used to it. So when they start to see it in their video games, which most likely they're not paying for in the first place, a lot of their parents are paying the money to get them these games, they don't mind. And then when you have all these other YouTubers with these massive sub counts, and most of their subs are these younger kids who, again, are very gullible, they don't really know, they want to be popular and follow the popular example, you've just got an entire generation right now, which is just essentially, when it comes to games, is very soft and willing to put up with just about anything from the developer without question. And the generation of gamers like myself, who are getting into our mid to late 30s, who grew up on the Nintendo and Atari back when we were just happy to have what we could have, those of us who can speak with our wallets, and those of us who can hold the developers and the publishers accountable, we're getting fewer and far between. And when we decide to raise our voice and be critical, now we're being called toxic. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with the world these days. People in general. I think it represents society a little bit too, with so much going on in society where, you have to be so worried about offending everybody. It's like everybody wants to just say, oh, you're just toxic. I can't handle the truth, so you're toxic. I don't want to, we can't tell these developers that they're not doing a good job. We just need to pay them and hope that they fix it. It's just kind of a ridiculous state we find ourselves in right now with the gaming industry. And it's not going to stop until people do what they did with Battlefront, and they complain about it, and they raise a big stink about it, and they stop spending their money. That's the only way we're going to change this. Really the only way. So, And that's one of the other issues too. Like, a lot of these people, they're coming on, they're talking about Destiny 2, they're being critical of Destiny, but they're still playing it. They're still showing it on their channel. They're still promoting the game, which is only working in Activision and Bungie's favor. If you really have a problem with the game, then you just don't play it. Just don't play it anymore. I can't see these people, they're continually critical of something, how they're still they'll often say, "Oh, I really enjoy the game, but I'm still playing it, but it's got all these problems." Just stop playing. That's the only way you're going to make a difference. The only way Bungie is going to fix anything is if they see the player counts plummet to just levels where they're not sustainable, for the game. They're not going to make any changes until people stop buying silver and people stop buying Eververse and people stop paying cash for bright engrams and crap like that. You're not going to see anything change at all. And we'll see if EA learned their lesson, but given their temporary clause they put on their little thing about the microtransactions of Battlefront, I won't be surprised when they come back in the game if they try it again. And hopefully if they do that, there will be just as big an uproar as there was when they tried to launch the game with a minute. Sorry guys, I've kind of been rambling on here for a while. I think I've kind of said what I wanted to say about this. There's not a huge toxicity issue right now in gaming communities. It's just that some people are sick and tired of being taken to the cleaners time and time again by these AAA companies who just want to milk everybody to make a buck. They don't want to put out a good experience anymore. They don't want to create a decent game. They just want to put out just garbage and then make you pay for the garbage and make you pay some more for the DLC. So, my recommendation, as I said, if there's something you really have an issue with, if you don't want to support it, then don't play it, don't buy it, spend your money elsewhere. You can be an educated consumer and you can speak with your wallet. And that's what a lot of us have got to start doing. If we want to see any they talk about positive change. If we want to see a positive change in the direction that gaming in general is going, more and more of us are going to have to start speaking with our wallet. Stop pre-ordering games. That's another thing too. So many people just pre-order these games blindly, and you pay them up front for something that you don't know how it's going to be when it releases. There's just no need for it anymore these days, when these companies are already making so much money. You don't need to give them your hard-earned money before you see a finished product. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Just wanted to get on and talk about this a little bit. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. I'd be interested to hear what most of you think about this and what you guys just think of the current state of gaming in general. So anyways, guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again next time.